I'd been writing plays and writing poems for a long time, and I would put on these sort of elaborate plays at Oberlin that didn't really feel like anything that the theater department wanted to see, but didn't really feel like anything that the creative writing kids were interested in. And I also would be so frustrated because there'd be this sounds so lazy, but there'd be this incredible outpouring of effort, and then it would happen one time, and I was just like enraged by that. Hey, you guys interested in a good time?
What do you mean by that?
You know, whatever you want to do, I'll do.
Really?
When I look at the shorts that I made now, they feel so overtly political. At the time, they were like these strange compulsions. Like when Hooker on Campus was made, it was literally like I woke up in the morning and had this incredible desire to dress up like a prostitute and walk around my college campus. And there was no sense of like, I want to explain to college-age men the way they make women feel commodified.
Your body is a temple.
So, like, yeah, do you want to get dinner?
There was none of that, and I can sort of project all of that onto it now, but at the time I was like, I have this weird top, I have this weird skirt, they make me feel like a prostitute. I want to see these reactions, and once I see them, I also want to film them for posterity. I think there was a lot of ignorance and sort of kind of like a stab in the dark in terms of putting stuff up on YouTube, but I also remember having a rabid jealousy when I would see a girl had made a video of herself, you know, pretending to be Jessica Simpson, drunk, and then 500,000 people watched it. These are these things that you only can do at 18 because you don't know what the rules are, which is I would do things like email Joe Swanberg, whose film I had seen, and say, what kind of mic do you use? Or email Andrew Bujalski, who's another person whose work I loved, and say, like, how many people were on your crew, and did you hold your own camera? Just these like where I was literally just trying to glean as much information as I needed to get the thing done, which is still sort of my filmmaking approach, is that I know as much as I need to be able to function. These little videos, in hindsight, it's absurd that the 3 minutes of me turning a camera on myself could make me think I could sustain an hour-and-a-half narrative, and it turns out I couldn't. I could only sustain a 61-minute narrative. I had written the script for Creative Nonfiction before I had even had the thought to make a movie. I didn't yet understand that a screenplay isn't really a finished form. It's a blueprint for something else. So to me, like, I'm gonna write a screenplay was like saying, I'm gonna write a novel. I think I was walking down the road in Connecticut listening to 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon. I was listening to it, and I had this incredibly, like, sort of strong vision of this girl kind of walking down the road, having just shot somebody, holding a gun, wearing a wig. I started to construct this narrative that was sort of visually exciting, but there really wasn't much to say, and it was a straight-up drama, and it was sort of starting to outline it, and it was going to be my big screenplay that I wrote over my January term, and I started it, and it was sort of like every time I'd work on it, I'd get this sinking feeling in my chest, and then I saw the Andrew Bujalski movie, Funny Ha Ha. I just saw it at the video store and thought, like, you know, I want to rent anything that has like two people around my age kissing. I'll get that. And at first I was like, this isn't a movie. This doesn't count as a movie. You're not allowed to make a movie about this. Nothing's happening. And by the end, I'd just been sort of completely transported. And suddenly I realized that that's what I want to write about. I can write about it. And I remember lying in bed, and the sort of two narratives, my life at the moment and this story that I wasn't really connected to, but saw all these pictures from, that refused to become a screenplay, sort of becoming one thing. Okay, so there's this girl. She's in high school. She's taken up with her English teacher. And he loves her poetry, you know, which is how the whole thing starts. And it's like that whole kind of like see me after class thing. And he takes her away to this cabin that he has, which is in the country. Features are challenging not just because it's more time and more money. There's a different kind of attention you need to pay to sustaining story, but I didn't understand that quite yet. It was shot almost more like a documentary, like when you hear about somebody sort of following a subject over time. We were sort of following these characters over 6 months. I had a piece of paper above my desk where I'd written down every single scene in the film, and whenever I would shoot one, I would just scratch it off. And so I would sort of go, oh, I'm getting closer and closer, and then I saw like there's 3 left to go, and I go, maybe we don't need that one, and then literally, upon scratching off the last one, I was like, I guess I've got a feature now. And I only sort of did. I had a film professor at Oberlin who didn't totally get it, but got it enough to give me some great notes. I remember he came into the edit bays and watched it, and he laughed, and I felt like he was responding, and he thought for a long time afterwards, and he said, I guess the thing I could compare it to the most, its biggest artistic precedent, kind of looks like really low budget porn. And looking back, I feel like that was totally spot on, but he urged me to sort of strip it down to this kind of essential idea of this one relationship and how this kind of one non-relationship and the rejection of this one non-relationship can kind of form this person.
Oh my God. Oh, okay.
Ella? Ella,
Okay,
look,
bye.
can we
Bye.
talk? Ella!
And when the film finally screened at Oberlin, it was such an interesting feeling because I'd been doing it so on my own, and then there was all this sort of like campus pride about the fact that it was actually done, because there was a lot of like, oh, Lena's filming her movie over there. Oh, Lena's like hiding behind the pizza place filming her movie. You can't come through the front of the dorm. Lena's filming her movie. And it seemed like a total nuisance until I realized people had sort of been tracking its progress, and there it was. I wasn't a tremendous student, so there was the idea like, you can't even handle your schoolwork, and now I hear that you're like trying to make a feature film in your off hours. But it was this interesting thing where once I had that project that was mine, everything else got better. Like I felt like I got better at school because suddenly I'd felt like school was my only job, and it was a job I wasn't good at, and I was like, oh, now school's like my day job, and I can do this thing that I love in my private time. And so there was a different kind of pride I took in sort of multitasking. Creative Nonfiction was a movie that I, shot parts of myself, operated the boom on, edited. It was incredibly hands-on, so I actually understood the filmmaking process in some elementary way. I'd done a really basic version of everything that needed doing, and I'd done it myself. But that being said, and that movie was really kind of made in the editing room because so much was removed from it. And so when I wrote Tiny Furniture, I had more of an understanding of what a feature-length narrative could actually sustain. Creative Nonfiction was in some ways an illusion about what movie making is because it was such a solo endeavor, and movie making all actually involves the management and embracing of so many personalities and egos. And I got that to such a minimal degree on Creative Nonfiction because it was as close as you can come to being a one-woman band, despite the fact that I had sort of recruited people to help me. They were all, none of them had intentions of making films for the most part. None of them really wanted to be filmmakers, and so they were sort of just watching my ride, and that's not what movie making is.